I've done that. I go missing for months and years when I'm figuring something out. That's what I did after my divorce. But the beauty of this session in particular is that you get to see what it's like in that state when it's not possible to make sense, when it's not possible for us to know where this is going to go.
Welcome to Partners in Sublime, where we explore the teachings of depth psychology and Vedic philosophy to achieve the highest levels of personal growth and self-actualization. Join me as we tap into the unconscious for intuitive guidance and creative direction. I'm your host, Shagun Chopra. Let's begin.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Partners in Sublime. Today, we're going to talk about why we don't feel like ourselves. And this is such a nebulous, tricky topic. Like, it's hard to come up with like a specific cause, a specific day when our mood changed, something big that happened. It's just something that quietly creeps into our life. And one day, if we put our former selves against our current selves, we realize, wow, we don't feel anything like what we used to. And it's complicated, it's hard to be in, it's hard to witness somebody else being in, and it really calls for us to appreciate this process of metamorphosis that happens as we go on our personal development journey. That there is this messy middle that we have to sit with, that we have to reckon with in order to get to the other side. And sometimes this messy middle can last months and years, and in that period it feels as if somebody has turned down the volume of our joy, of our aliveness, and there's this pervasive sense of something's wrong without us quite being able to name what that is with specificity, or we're just going through the motions and the routines and everything that life entails. D.H. Lawrence was a writer, poet, novelist who said that the human soul needs actual beauty even more than bread. So think about that for a second. It's not about meeting our physical needs. We want our lives to be such that our need for beauty, of aliveness, of passion, of us being able to relish our lives, like that is met. And when that is not met, it doesn't matter if all other needs are being met. We still feel this sense of flatness, numbness, this in-between space. And it doesn't always look like numbness. It can sometimes look like us acting in ways that are not normal to us. Like, hence the question, like, why don't we feel like ourselves? If the old me would have been very creative and approached things from a certain perspective, and the new me is just losing my cool and doing things I wouldn't have done, that too is a sign that we don't feel like ourselves. So it doesn't always look like being numb and flatlined. It can also look like us being very emotionally elevated, almost constantly. So, what can we turn to understand and define this state? And I think the closest parallel we have in Jungian psychology and in even other disciplines is this idea of a liminal state. Liminal comes from the Latin word limen, which means threshold or doorway. Anthropologist Arnold van Gennep said that every change goes through three different phases. And this is true of any major transition that we have in life. First, there's a separation from the old identity. Then there's the threshold state where the old is starting to leave, the new hasn't really arrived. And then there's the third stage in which the new identity comes in, and we incorporate ourselves into a new way of being. This in-between state was the one he was most interested in, and is the one that we need to look at as we talk about a sense of not feeling like ourselves. It's this middle place where our former status has been stripped off of us. We can't be who we used to be. This new way of being hasn't arrived, and we're really just in the messy middle. And no matter how much we sugarcoat this state, It feels truly uncomfortable and sometimes downright awful. I actually had this experience right when I was creating this episode. Usually, I have the coaching session first, and then I decide what kind of episode will this coaching session be a good testament to, a good demonstration of. And our answers are typically easy. I'm able to come up with a topic that has a pretty neat arc in which the session fits. But with this one, when the session happened, I knew it was powerful. I knew it was really real and genuine. And then I sat with myself and I was like, well, what is this really about? And for a while, I could not come up with anything concrete. Like everybody else, turns out I also don't like to stay in the liminal space. This is like very natural to want it to be over, but it's so necessary to stay there. And when I stayed there long enough, I realized that that's what this episode is about. It's about tolerating that sense of not quite knowing where we're going in the middle, but knowing fully well that we are not what we used to be. And this episode and the session in it is my way of offering a window into what that experience really looks like. Because very few of us talk about it. You know, when we're in that state, we just kind of hunker down, go through our lives. And when we emerge on the other side, that's when we're ready to tell the story of this is how it happened. I've done that. I go missing for months and years when I'm figuring something out. That's what I did after my divorce. I reached out to my close friends, but not so much the broader circle, until I had fit my life into a narrative that I could then share. But the beauty of this session in particular is that you get to see what it's like in that state when it's not possible to make sense, when it's not possible for us to know where this is going to go. And our hesitation to stay with the liminal space and try to make a neat story of it, like, this is the crisis that happened, this is what I learned, and now I'm over here, and this is what went down, is coming from our reliance on our thinking mind. We have overemphasized in this society the idea of using logic and reason to find our way through difficulty. But the thing with these threshold liminal experiences is that you cannot rationalize your way out of them. You have to feel the feelings that arise. This is true of any time in your life, but especially true for these moments. Recognize that you don't know, that you don't have an explanation, that you don't have a clear path forward, and you can still sit with that and be grounded in the fact that you're still here. This is part of the process, and you are willing to endure this suffering in order to get to the other side. Rumi actually said that the wound is the place where the light enters. And it's not some external kind of wound, like in the state, people can look at you and think like you're not functioning. Maybe some things are off about you, but nobody's going to be like, oh, you've completely lost it, you had a breakdown. But internally, this big wound is developing. It's often invisible. People can't even see it. And you have to reckon with it and you have to go through it. But it's not something that can be circumvented. You have to let that wound be the opening for this new identity, this new way of being that is going to emerge. Today's session is with someone I'll call Miley. She's in that space. I was in that space after the session. And maybe you are in that space right now as you're listening, or you can at least recognize in the past where you've been there. And as you listen to this session, try to suspend your own desire to be like, here's what this person should or shouldn't do, or this is what this is really about. And just see what it's like to embody the experience of not knowing, of being in the mess, of being at the doorway where you're neither inside nor you're outside. And you really don't know where you're going, but for now, that's where you're at. So let's listen to the session and I will see you on the other side of it. So tell me what's on your mind.
Um, Mom stuff. Mom stuff for sure. We're socialized and also maybe just like biologically pre-programmed to from evolution. Like I feel like we already understand that we have to like be kind of self-sacrificing in order to like help the species continue, right? But I also think like at a certain point it feels like we've given up too much, like we've crossed this line where it's like, well, yeah, but like my counterpart could also step it up. Yeah, I was just telling him today, I was like, I really want to get that game fair play, and just see like where do the cards lie? Because I don't know about you, but I feel like sometimes the mountain of things that I have to remember, um, it feels crushing at times because it's just like, oh, like, okay, which fire is like the biggest fire to put out? And then you're like, oh, I can't even like he loves to say things like, oh, make a list. He's like a data type guy, right? So he's like, I can help you make like a really good list that like helps you prioritize. And I'm just like, like, no, what I actually need is you to like crawl in my brain and like take out all the things that I'm forgetting and then make that damn list.
Yeah, yeah, wow.
Yeah.
First of all, I get ads for that game all the time.
Oh,
It's
I'm
like the
sure.
marketers
I'm
know that new moms are struggling with
sure. Right.
the mental, physical, emotional load that they're
Right.
carrying. So of
Right.
course this great game is great for them because it helps us look at someone else and be like, I feel shitty because you are not pulling your weight.
Not at
And
all.
I've thought of getting them too sometimes. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm totally with you. Like this is a
Yeah.
very familiar state.
Right. And then
And
it's so apparent as you get into this next stage of life how, and maybe not for all guys, that's like hashtag not all men, right? But it feels like it's so blaringly apparent that many men have been like pre-programmed in the complete opposing direction of like, how do I self-serve more? Like that's like the constant track going on, going on, going on. And it feels so foreign as a mom to be like how could you even like how could that be an automatic thought? Even as like a very assertive, like I would say pretty dominant kind of woman, I take a lot of pride in like not being a doormat, you know? Um, still shocking.
hmm yeah. What do you think is the reason that in moments of stress you turn to your partner and maybe out loud, maybe to yourself, imply that I must be stressed because you're not doing enough?
I think it's just like honestly, maybe just feeling like trying to feel like you can find a bridge between you two, right? Like, because it doesn't feel good to feel like you're on like opposite sides of the same team. You want to be on the same page or at least in the same book with your partner, especially prior to baby. Like, it feels like you can be on the same page a lot more, right? Someone described to me once, like, before they put a car on the market to sell, they have to like put all the pieces together and then like at the very end of the line they like shake the car really really hard and see like what falls out. And I feel like marriage is like you got all the pieces going, it's on the line, it's going good, and then like parenthood is like you just shaking the shit out of that car and seeing what falls.
Wow, I love that. Yeah, it does feel like that, doesn't it? So your answer to my original question is basically like I turn toward you, you being your partner,
Yeah.
and my hope is to reconcile and come to
Find,
on the same page or in the
find
same book.
connection. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah,
Because like
yeah.
if you know that they can't possibly do everything you would want them to do, but you would at least like to feel like they get it enough to try a little harder, maybe.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I'm going to hypothesize,
Yeah.
and you can tell me if
Yeah.
I'm right or wrong, is that in addition to that conversation, another function this behavior serves is it takes us away from looking at everything we're feeling internally.
Oh, yeah. Like like sometimes I think about all the things I'd like him to be doing differently. And then I don't know, it's almost like it helps me to also just like be less, oh, blame my problems on someone else, to just be like, oh yeah, but like look at, you're a huge pile of laundry that needs to be dealt with. Like maybe deal with that before you start like tearing someone else down, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but not just in terms of things you have to do or
Yeah.
things on your to-do list, but the feelings that come up in
Yeah.
the course of motherhood.
Yeah.
Um, if we were to like focus on them for a second, and I'm going there because I feel like that's where we really find our breakthroughs, because anybody who came to any coaching or therapy with the potential solution to their problem being if this other person were to change, like if if you had a if it worked that way, that would be great, but it
Yeah.
doesn't work that way. Like we
Right.
change first.
Right.
So what are some feelings that come up for you, or maybe you've experienced them recently, maybe you're experiencing them right now, when you feel this sense of motherhood, its demands, and you want to turn to your partner and be like, this is too much, you got to step up. What are you feeling internally in that moment?
Um, a lot of things, I think, depending on the moment, but maybe like an intense sense of dread.
Is that like the most present feeling for you these days?
When it's at its worst, that's what it feels like. Other times it feels more like this constant feeling of frustration. It's the moments that I feel like I'm chipping away at that mountain of to-do list, um, feel very like small and almost like meaningless. Like there's a lot of moments where I'm just like, I'm just gonna socialize with my friend for 2 hours instead, because at least I know that's gonna make me feel good, like really good, as opposed to like doing like the tiniest task that'll just feel like, okay, now you just have like 1,000 more on the list to get to, and they're all fires that you have to put out.
It can be frustrating, right, to work through a never-ending to-do list. To me about the meaninglessness.
I think there's some things that feel like in the past I would have been like, oh, that's super important to get to right now. But after having a kid, it's sort of like, yeah, it's important, but like also it'll still be there. I don't know. There's just like a different level of, even though it's like really bad to like let, like, for example, as a business owner, like let your taxes continue to just kind of like be there, like accruing like penalties or fees or whatever. It's like, okay, well, yeah, but no one's gonna be like knocking on the door and being like, go to tax jail now right away, But then like
Mhm.
then you think about like how meaningful and purposeful it feels to like witness your child do something really awesome and just be there for those really special moments, and it just makes those other things seem very small in the big picture.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the meaninglessness is coming from both like a genuine shifting of your
Yeah.
priorities, it's more important than
Yeah.
taxes. But also I'm picking up on like this sense of exhaustion that like I'm already so exhausted. What good is it going to be to tackle this one
Right.
thing from
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when these feelings set in and you can stay with any one of them in you, like what are some things that accompany those feelings? There's usually like a story going on in our mind when the emotions surface. And most of the story is like, oh, I would feel better if my partner did XYZ. But are there any other narratives that also come with it?
Oh, for sure. Like, you know, how much of this onus is actually just like on like the bigger system at large. And like they're also just failing us as women, as moms, as just citizens, you know. There's a lot of things are on fire in the world right now. So I feel like that also adds to that feeling of like, okay,
Hmm.
let's just live in the now.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like that's like a whole other circle of, it's like the same narrative, but applied to a bigger,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
society at large. Not just my husband is failing me, but like my
Yeah.
community might be failing me, or my society might be failing me, or
Yeah.
some version of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I also feel like there's this sense of like, if no, like if I have to just be my own savior, like I have to be my own Prince Charming or whatever, or like whatever narrative on it. I feel like there's this sense of like, um, I don't know, like I'm not gonna rescue myself in the ways that don't like pack as much punch, I guess. Like I'm gonna rescue myself in the ways that feed my soul the best right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone else is failing me. I gotta just stand up for me, and I'll do it in ways that feed me.
Right.
And I might go ahead and in turn deprioritize what other people or the world are asking from me.
Yeah.
I feel like there's this resentment there toward others, and there's also a sense of like revenge,
Yeah.
almost like I'll take back what you're not giving me. I'll
Right.
find a way to reclaim it. Yeah.
Right. Like some kind of, yeah, some kind of vengeance. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Before we go and engage with these emotions, like realistically to yourself on a day to day, do you ever name these feelings? Do you ever tell yourself, I'm feeling particularly vengeful right now, or I am so
I don't know about
angry?
vengeful, but I definitely feel like there's moments where I'm like, I feel frustrated. I feel helpless. I
Hmm.
feel a little hopeless. I definitely say things like that. Or like some, you know, this feels depressing. Like, I definitely say those kind of things. Yeah.
Yeah. Motherhood is exceptionally good at helping us experience this like whole range of emotions, many of which you just named, and I felt all of them, so I totally get it.
Yeah.
Um, as you think about like you mentioned a few of them, which one is feeling the strongest right now? Which is the most alive emotion in the moment?
It's like sometimes the helpless feels pretty strong. Like there's moments where I really don't want to scream at my partner or like get rude or nasty, but I also find myself doing that and I'm like, I know I have better tools in my pocket. Why am I like, why is it so hard for me to just reach into that? You know?
Yeah. Maybe we work with that feeling then today. And when I say work with, I think it'd be really great if we just paid some attention to it and engaged with it in a way that we don't get to do in daily life. So, do you think you have the space right now to close your eyes for a few minutes while I lead you through a visualization?
Sure.
Okay.
So just take a comfortable stance with your body so that you're relaxed. Close your eyes, ground your feet if you think that helps you, and start to focus on your breath. Long exhale, deep inhale, and so on until the breath settles into a comfortable, steady rhythm. You're relaxed, you're calm, you're peaceful, and you have a moment now to look at some of the things that are going on within you. Let's summon the feeling of hopelessness. I want you to imagine it in any form. It can be a person or a thing. Give it something, some tangible shape or structure, and then we will try to get close to it.
Kind of like a rectangular box.
Rectangular box. What color is it?
Like a red and a yellow color.
Does it have a lid?
I think it's like kind of just fully enclosed. Yeah.
Is there anything else that is noticeable about the box?
I feel like it was saying like it wants to be held and also like taken somewhere, like moved.
Do you know where?
No. Just like, I mean, the feeling was maybe like a vacation.
Yeah.
Just like change of scenery.
Yeah. So your hopelessness is saying to you, I just want to be held and I just want to be taken somewhere that's different from the usual place that I'm in.
Yeah.
Why do you think it gave that message? Like, what do you think that means?
I think it's probably just like the feeling of wanting to like get back to some sense of normalcy in my life, like a little bit more of like, like I've been trying to do things like get back into like having something that's just for me, like going dancing once a week or like something like that. And I don't know why, but it's been like a struggle just to do something like that. And then also, like, we just had a vacation for a month, but as much as I wanted to try to carve it out to feel like it was also my vacation, in so many ways, it felt like the opposite. Like, it was like, you have to be even more of a mom right now. Yeah.
The other message, though, that it wants to be held, what do you think that is about?
Well, that's another one. It's like I know that like craving more affection in my marriage, and that's like a hard one. That's a hard one. Long-standing hard one. But also I think there's also just like from myself, right? Like I think that's the biggest thing is like maybe we don't crave it as much from our partnership if we're doing it enough for ourselves. And I just don't think that I think part of like taking myself dancing, like that's part of that.
Yeah. This part of you really wants to be held. I think that's something we're definitely seeing, but held by whom is
Yeah.
the question.
Mhm.
Yeah, like you can wait for other people
Yeah.
to hold this part of you, or you can hold it yourself.
Mhm.
And I'm not even sure if other people see this part. Like, I don't think, as is often the case, our emotions come out in more familiar or acceptable ways because we've seen other people nag or get nasty, or we see other people get quiet and we
Yeah.
emulate that. And it's very rare that we would sit with our partner and be Like, I am so hopeless right now. I feel just devastated by my hopelessness. Like, can you hold me? I want to be held. Because we rarely frame it that way.
Oh yeah. It's like super vulnerable, right? I think it's also just really hard when you feel like you're put in that position of like the asking and you want that initiation also to come through way, right? That's hard. That's
Yeah.
exhausting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be nice if this box didn't even have to, like, first of all, it'd be nice if it didn't exist. But since it does exist, it'd be really nice if somebody just came and held it without
Yeah.
you even having to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are some ways you could hold this box?
Mm. I mean, I did try on Tuesday to go dancing, and I feel like that would have been really cool if it could have worked out, but it didn't work out. So gotta wait for my next moment.
I feel like you going dancing is you taking the box somewhere.
I like partner dancing. Like I like swing dancing, I like salsa dancing, and you're literally being held, right?
Mm.
So it's just nice to, even if it's a stranger, to feel like someone else has like some obligation to like touch me, hold me, whatever, spin me around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Makes me sad to hear that longing is so deep that you're basically saying anything would do. Any, not in the sense that it's bad to be held in dancing. I love dancing. I'm a former
Yeah.
dancer, and
Yeah.
after long nights at work, I would go to tango nights, and it would feel
Yeah.
really good to just
Yeah.
be in this different world.
Yeah.
But that sense of that someone else has to do it for me, I think that's the part that's standing out to me. Uh, let's bring it back to motherhood. Like, it's kind of like saying this child that's mine, or is almost like a part of me, definitely feels like an extension of us, right? Is crying or feeling hopeless. And I am looking at other people, whether it's my husband, whether it's people I might dance with, whether it's society, looking at other people and be like, are you going to pick that up? Like, something in you is preventing you from picking up and loving and nourishing this part of you. Does it feel like you've been resistant to doing that? Like, what do you do with yourself when you feel the hopelessness coming on?
I think instinctively I try to do things like take a shower or like go swimming, like immerse myself in water. Um, or yeah, just be with people that I know care about me, like in different ways, like care for me in different ways, like not just the way my partner does.
Mhm. And you do that, and it doesn't quite cut it, right? For this
Yeah,
fear.
yeah. I mean, it's like a tip
What do you
you like holding.
wants to be held all the time
Yeah.
or whenever it arises?
Yeah.
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 I always trust that the psyche is all knowing and definitely knows you best. And if it's trying to send you a message, it wants to be heard. It wants to see that message translate from, the psychological to the physical
Yeah.
in some ways. And by physical, I mean like the physical world,
Yes.
like a change of attitude, a new action.
I think this message comes because you maybe ignore that feeling of hopelessness sometimes.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a painful thing, right? Like to listen to it all the time.
If you've ever tried not picking up a child to soothe them, they only cry harder. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like that. This feeling wants to be held so much more
Yeah.
because there are times that you are like, this is too painful. I don't want to feel you right now.
Yeah.
What if you could feel it a little bit more? What have you done in the past to honor your emotions? Like when you feel something, like what's your typical go-to things that you
I think
do?
like journaling and also going to therapy for myself and then also music. Like when I'm at my saddest, I think this is true for a lot of artists, people is like I go to my art. So I will like start playing more music on ukulele or piano or just like composing songs. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you done that of late?
Mm, definitely gone to the piano. Um, played songs for sure, but not composing. Composing, it's like I've got to be like heartbroken. Yeah,
So you do make space
I do. I do.
for your feelings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can do it more though.
Yeah. I think it's very subtle here. It's not like you do nothing.
Right.
Like you're very aware, but it's asking you for more. It's asking for more time, space, recognition. Just the fact that the box transformed when you paid attention to it already tells me that it's been craving attention, that, changed once you looked at it. So if you had looked at it enough in the feeling sense, it wouldn't morph. And and I think there's something about like feeling your feelings to the point where you are ready to work through them and metabolize them, which is where I think like songwriting is great because you take that heightened feeling and you transmute it
Yeah.
into something.
Yes.
But if you never quite turn the dial up of the feeling to the point where you get to that expression and working through you,
Yeah.
then it just like stays
Yeah.
like not to make it data driven like your husband, but like it needs to get to like a 10 on 10 before you can do
Yeah.
that. And it's like just like 7, maybe low, depending on the day. It's just not getting
No.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of dangerous, right? Because we trick ourselves into thinking like, oh, we're like self-aware people, we feel our feelings,
Right.
but we stop short.
We
And because we want to be functional, we have things to do. So we just like, okay, I can feel it for like a little bit, but then I have a life to live or things to do. And it makes us act in ways we wouldn't act if we were paying attention to it the whole time. That's when the outburst comes out, or you say something snarky, or you do something that you are like, if I was more aware and more in control, like I wouldn't have
right.
done that.
Character
Yeah.
or what you think is your character, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome back, everyone. That was Miley. Thank you for listening to that session. Maybe, like me, you felt uncomfortable, that there was no clear breakthrough, no clarity that emerged, no missing piece that made the picture all come together. But it was just this woman sitting with her feelings, not having a solution. I think the fact that a tidy solution did not emerge in this session is the most important thing that we can learn from it. And while the liminal state that Miley is in can arise at any time, this one is specifically focused around motherhood. And there's so much conversation in broader culture about motherhood. I myself have fallen into a lot of rabbit holes about mental load. Every time I would find myself feeling really overwhelmed, or I feel sad, or I feel just uncharacteristically angry, I would go online to look for answers of like, why am I feeling this way? And invariably, I would end up in forums or articles or places that we're talking about this uneven mental load. And I want to say that it's very real. I am not discounting the phenomenon at all. But what happened for me and what I see happening for Miley is that I got so bought into that narrative for some time that I almost failed to notice the changes that were happening inside me. Every time an emotional state arose in me, I was very quick to pawn it off to someone else and be like, I'm feeling this way, you must be the problem. And while we all need to have honest conversations about who does how much in marriage, there's a constant give and take in any kind of intimate relationship. We really do ourselves a disservice when we use that and our thinking mind that is like, oh, I have 10 things on my plate and you only have two, let's even this load. It takes away from us being able to look at ourselves, our feeling of being overwhelmed at holding those 10 things. When in our previous life, we used to be able to juggle all our demands with ease and grace and make it look like it was no big deal. What does it feel to be in a position where it doesn't come so naturally, where you are being pushed in ways that you didn't expect you would be pushed, where you can just no longer keep up with the way you used to be? Not being able to witness that feeling really prolongs the process of finding our new identity. I had mentioned that Arnold, the anthropologist, had come up with these 3 stages. And if you're not going to inhabit the liminal stage, you're not going to get to that next state. You have to endure that suffering. So, what Miley is doing in this case is she feels completely at unease about all the things that motherhood has brought her. The sense of overwhelm, exhaustion, some things she didn't mention, I'm sure, are sleep deprivation, your body not feeling like itself, not being able to do the things that you used to do and enjoy doing and want to do. And you have those uncomfortable feelings. The easiest place for them to go, and this is classic and all of us do it, is to someone else. I take my uncomfortable feelings and I project it on to my husband. I take my uncomfortable feelings and I project it on to my family. I take it, project it on to my friend. I take them and project it on to the society. And we saw Miley do that. And again, I'm saying projection doesn't mean that you can't have a hard boundary setting conversation. It's just that you really can't look at things as they are because they're colored by this lens you're applying to them. So, effectively withdrawing the projection from the external world allows us to look at things for what they are without this emotional charge that gets in our own way. And we see Miley do that, and I think she has some recognition that that's what she's doing. And I've done that in early days of motherhood, and I know many women who've done the same. So, not limited to motherhood, but projection is something that's at the heart of every conflict. But coming back to this idea of motherhood, especially, I want to bring up this concept of matrescence. And this is the idea of the onset of motherhood as a distinct, long condition that is meant to transform us, very similar to adolescence. So when I got married to my husband, I inherited a very beautiful daughter from another mother. And she was 11 when I met her, and she was a lot more kid-like. And now she's about to turn 16. And I've seen her transformation from that kid to preteen, teenager. Very soon she'll be a full-grown woman. And I am always amazed to see what that transition looks like, especially because my own children are very young. They are under 3 years old. And I think about, wow, what a difference that state is. And no wonder people talk a lot about it. And I've talked to other parents about it. I've talked to my husband about this child who is really clingy and always wants to be with you when they're young, and you can't even put them down or go to the bathroom without them wanting to accompany you. And to a point where there's this person who behaves like a child one day and wants a lot of you, and then is too cool to even hug you or be seen with you. And that push and pull, it just continues before they settle into a new identity. If we imagine motherhood as like the onset of adolescence, we would really be getting a much better grasp of what it entails versus thinking of it as this singular event where I recover in 6 weeks and go back to normal. Just like with adolescence, you are inhabiting that state between a child and an adult for several years, and you're going back and forth until you settle into the new identity. It's the same thing with motherhood. Mothers are going to experience maybe over 3 to 7 years this period where they feel a draw for their old identity, but they can't quite get it yet. And they haven't formed this new way of being in which they feel comfortable. So we all make these decisions when we're in this phase. I don't feel like myself. Let me go back to doing exactly what I was doing. Or I don't feel like myself. What can I change around myself? Or I don't feel like myself. How do I get to this next chapter? When is this part of motherhood going to get over? When are my kids going to sleep through the night, go to school so I can have my life back? So all these ways of thinking, first of all, they're very appropriate because you're in that messy middle, so you can't escape them. But the fact that you are having these push and pulls, it's completely normal. And Miley is in that space. I've been in, and I think I still am in that space. I think I'm just in the start of that range, the 3 to 7 year range. And you can go through this period kicking and screaming and be like, what is happening? Why is everything out of whack? Or you can move through it with intention, with this reckoning, with this understanding that it's going to force you to do deeper work. And the more you do it, the more amazing your next identity is going to feel. It's going to feel deep, it's going to feel grounded, and it's going to fulfill you in new ways that you didn't even imagine before. And honestly, I wish I knew all that before I became a mother. These are all the things that I came upon as I struggled after my own children to figure out who I really am. And I've done all those things. I've spent the day reading articles on mental load. They explain why I feel overwhelmed. My husband gets home from work, and then I'm like, it's because of this thing you're doing or you're not doing. And it doesn't lead to any resolution because it puts me further and further away from my own emotional experience. And now that I'm in touch with my own emotions more, and I've done more shadow work and really embraced this Jungian process, I have come to realize before I put blame or immediately after I put blame, because it happens, we all project, I have realized what it takes to claim that projection back and work with what's within. Just yesterday, my husband came back from a week-long trip. It was for a course that he really wanted to do. He had signed up for it over a year ago and was really looking forward to it. And he's done that for me. He's gone to conferences where he's been with the kids in hotel rooms as I attend the day's programming. So it was my turn to do that for him. And right as he was leaving, I told myself, I have a choice. I can spend all of the next 10 days thinking, wow, this is so hard to be left alone with 2 toddlers. Or I can use this time to get closer to myself, which is what I did. Exhausting as it was and challenging as it was, I tried to not project my feelings on him. I tried to sit with them. I learned some new things about myself. I spent a lot of time trying to care for myself in the little pockets that I had when I could. And when he came back, instead of meeting him with, here you go, you take the kids, and now I'm on my own for 2, 3 days so I can decompress, I was genuinely able to welcome him in and talk about how the week was like for me without necessarily imposing on him this pressure of like, now you got to make it up to me, or now you got to do something to signal to me that you're sharing the load equally. And I'm really proud of being able to do that. I also know that I'm just as human as everybody else, and I am going to fall into projection patterns very soon again, and then I'd have to do the work to come back. So it's not a character flaw that Miley is doing this. We all do this. We all have to learn how to get our way back from it. So I know that was a little bit of a detour into my own matrescence, but I think it was important to share here because I could really relate to so many things that Miley was saying. It's not a surprise that I get ads for the Fair Play cards. I have spent fair amount of time looking into that material myself. Miley is feeling completely overwhelmed by her mounting to-do list, all the things that she has to do, all the things that she needs to be worried about, all the ways in which she feels like she's not able to do the things that she used to be able to do. And the sign that she's in the liminal space and hasn't yet gone to that third phase, which has the new way of being, is that when I ask her about these things, her attention turns outward. She starts by talking about the ways in which her husband falls short, then talks about the way society falls short. And all of that could be true. I'm not here to speculate that. But it takes a while for her to come to her own emotional experience. And when she comes to that experience, she realizes that she hasn't been paying as much attention as she thought she could. She's a creative person. She knows what it's like to feel. And her comment about songwriting and not being able to feel to the extent that she could write tells me that on her emotional awareness dial, she's not operating at a 10 on 10. She's at a 5 or 6 on 10. Things are enough that they show up in her conversations. Like she can't help herself the way she talks to her husband. But she never quite gets to the 10, which is where we need to go in order to be able to transform that emotion, to metabolize it, to release the energy associated with it, and to go on through the rest of the process. And in this session, through this active imagination, she was able to focus on these emotions that have been there, but she hasn't been able to fully look at. And unsurprisingly, her psyche showed her a box that wanted to be held, that wanted to be taken everywhere, not just put on the side. It wasn't ready to be opened yet, though. So for now, it's just looking for acknowledgement. It just needs tending. Tend to me, hold me. And Miley knows that at some level. Her wanting to go to a dance class where she can just be held by another person is so telling of her deepest desires. But it wasn't until she really sat with these feelings that she could acknowledge those desires to herself. And her psyche showed her the same thing. So I know normally I use this part of the episode to talk about what happened in session. But because this session was emblematic of the not knowingness of a threshold state, I think in this one, I can take some time to offer some speculation about what might happen next. The first thing that can and might happen for some time is that the projections continue to stay alive. Miley continues to blame her husband, blame the society at large, avoids her inner experience, and a lot of resentment can build in the marriage, and it becomes less and less emotionally intimate, thereby increasing further the longing to be held. It does not mean that the marriage is going to end, but it is going to become hollow and no longer give Miley the sense of aliveness and love that it used to. The other thing that might happen is that some other event will transpire in Miley's life and force her to confront all the grief that she hasn't fully metabolized yet. She has some awareness of it, no doubt, but she hasn't fully metabolized it yet. Let's say someone in the family gets a health diagnosis or somebody she knows passes away. She might experience disproportionately high grief at that moment because everything that she hasn't looked at so far will then come to the surface. And this has happened to all of us, right? Something really small happens, like you stub your toe and you cry as if somebody took your child away, or there is this disproportionate reaction to something relatively small. That reaction is not disproportionate. It's just taking into account accumulated emotions that were in your unconscious and bringing them to the surface because something happened that made it acceptable or gave it a little opening to be able to do so. So something might happen in Miley's life that gives her that opening to finally confront this full on. And when she gets to that full on emotional feeling mode, songwriting will come easy to her. Right now, it's kind of muted and dialed down, but that has been her way to transmute her emotions, and it will become available to her when her grief, when her emotions, her sadness, her hopelessness get heightened to that state. The third thing that might happen, and this is the most coitus and insidious one, she gets into some sort of compromise and pattern with her husband. She settles into a routine. She figures out how to make motherhood work. But slowly, something more alive and joyful and passionate in her just continues to escape. So she becomes very functional, but she feels numb. And sometimes when I take my kids to the playground, I see some moms, and that's not to say that that's their forever state, but in those moments, they are pushing the kid on the swing and just staring into the distance. Like their gaze is just blank, it's devoid of life. And if the kid says, "Mom, push me harder," they will absolutely attend to it. They're very functional, but they don't quite have that spark anymore. And this one is a really hard one to mitigate, and it will stay that way unless something happens that breaks it open. Something happens that gives you a reason to look into your unconscious, to channel all those emotions that you didn't get to address. Again, these were all speculations that I have based on where Miley's at now. And I think I can share them because I've taken those paths, and I'm sure you have too. So now, what does Miley do with all this? What do I do with this? What do you do with this? I think the lesson for us here is to accept and acknowledge that we're in the liminal state. Don't fight it. Don't push it away. Don't pretend it's not happening. It is absolutely happening. Just like you wouldn't tell a teenager to be an adult already, they have to go through that phase. You have to go through your own liminal space, whether it lasts weeks or months or years. This is your journey to go through. Second, we can move purposefully through this liminal space by acknowledging and accepting our inner experience, our emotional experience, not by pushing uncomfortable things away, but by embracing them as part of the journey. Look what happened when Miley sat with her emotions for some time. 20 minutes of sitting with your emotions is better than 2 hours of doing something to distract you from them. It's not going to take you to that place you want to go. And if sitting with our emotions just feels like too jarring to do all of a sudden, you just close your eyes and then you just feel what you're feeling, active imagination offers a really good way to it. Sit down with a journal, a sketch pad, anything, even your computer, and just let your inner self pour out. It wants to be seen and heard and tended to, and there's no way you can do that until you give it space to show up. So those are some things that we can try to move through this liminal space with a sense of purpose, a sense of surrendering to the process versus actively fighting it. I am so grateful to Miley for showing us what it looks like to inhabit this space. And I'm so grateful to you for listening this far along or watching this far along and being able to sit with any discomfort that it arose in you. I know how uncomfortable transitions feel. I've had a few of those in my life myself. And I appreciate your willingness to witness somebody's transition as you reflect on your own. That's all I have for today. I'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you for being my partner in Sublime today. I hope you enjoyed diving into the unconscious with me. To ask a question or get coached on the show, visit shagunchopra.com/ask or click the link below. See you next time.